streaming. I gotta make sure that I have audio here. Yeah, I've got audio. Don't know if it's too loud or too quiet, but I've got it. And Twitch still says we're not online. Ah, now we are live. Let's go tell the world. Streaming game dev. Hashtag game dev. Gonna work on some shader and material stuff in Unity. Paste. Oh. And someone I know is here too, so I'll just grab this before I forget. How do I follow? I'll figure that out later. Alright, so we are ready. Today what we're going to do is work on materials. I have a little bit of a starter material right now. And we're going to try and polish that a little bit, but we're also going to go ahead and make it so that it has a lot more functions. And then we're going to use material property blocks to customize those materials as things happen in the game world. So let's go ahead and pop open our shader. And let's take a quick look. There are some things that we're no longer using, like this cube map, so let's get rid of it. There we go. And what we're going to want to do is add in some more values and such. But first, let's try some tweaks of how we show things, because right now it can be a little bit tough to see where things are going and what things are doing. Just the glowy ball is not quite as large as it should be when we're moving slowly. When we're moving fast, it's fine. So this is where that is. Target pos.w, this is the width of the glowing ball. And you can see that what we do is we just say it's rigid body.velocity.magnitude plus 3. What we're going to do is we're going to divide the rigid body velocity by 2, and then we're going to add 10. And let's just see how that looks. Because what we would like to do is we would like to have a little bit of a shell around the unit when we are moving slowly. So as we get close, we should be able to see it. Yeah, you can see how it's starting to show lines around us. That's more like what I want. You can sort of see where we're going based on those lines, but that's still too small. What we really need to do is make it depend on the size of the ship. And that is a little bit more difficult. So then we're going to do two things here. We're going to go ahead and grab the size of the ship, and we're going to go ahead and use that. So we're also going to use a minimum speed. So let's go ahead and work this out here. The width of the sphere used to indicate possible travel strafe should be based on the size of the ship and the speed, the velocity of the ship within certain bounds. So what we're going to do is to find the size of the ship, we need to get the rigid body, which we already have, and we need to ask it for its bounds. Bounds isn't something that is automatically, it's not, I can't type in bounds. Is that constraints? No, that's like whether it can rotate on the x-axis. Is bounds not something that I can just fetch? Well, I can fetch it from the ship, so let's go ahead and get it from a ship here. Public ship. Ship. Supafcan says bounds is part of the collider, I think. Yeah, but the problem is there's about 800 colliders. return ship. Not feeling too terribly well because I walked too much and it's a little too hot, so got a little touch of heat exhaustion, but it should be okay. Hello? Good morning. What the fuck? Oh, that's right, it's ship.ship. Oh, come on. Seriously? Even when I include ship, it still counts as a namespace. So ship.ship was a bad idea. God damn it. What an annoyance. This is fucking stupid. I guess I've only got myself to blame. I forgot that it was too dumb to realize that if it was inside the namespace, it should use the stuff inside the namespace. Ship.ship.ship.ship.ship. So ship dot, and then we should have bounds. No, it's not here. For fuck's sake. After all of that, it's not even the right thing. So Erdwar says hello, Morse Amalgam says hot out where you are, and Elboetchi says, hey Craig. Wow, we got a whole bunch of people talking all of a sudden, and I'm just sitting here complaining all the time. But basically, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the physics container must be it. I bet it's the physics container. Well, let's go ahead and just check before I do anything here. Physics container. Physics. Is it inside of another namespace? Mass graph. So if we take a look at physics container, it should have bounds, but it does not. Okay, so is there nothing that calculates bounds? I don't have anything that understands bounds on the entire ship, really? Well, that certainly is special. The weird thing is, in order to calculate the bounds, I know that it will automatically do the work I needed to do. So what I'm saying is, I can ask the rigid body to calculate the closest point on its bounds. So if we get bound, closest point on bounds. So it's obviously able to calculate the bounds. But for some reason, it's not capable of doing it on the fly or doing it on its own. It's only capable of doing it within that particular parameter. We're going to go ahead and just make it a value. We can fix it later up to be something more interesting. Public float ship radius. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make the target.w based on the ship radius. So ship radius times, and then some value. So float radius valuation equals rigid body dot velocity dot magnitude divided by 2. If radius valuation is greater than let's say 10, then we're gonna cap it at 10. Oh wait, we can cap it, right? It's just radius valuation equals mathf dot clamp value minimum of 1 and a maximum of 10. Let's go ahead and put it in. And then what we'll do is we will make this 1 plus divided by 10. And that'll give us a value between 1 and 2 based on our speed. So we'll just multiply this like so. And that'll give us a ship scale ball based on our radius. And it's going to be, in this case, between 10 and 20. That should be good. You could get the bounds by doing something like this. I imagine that he's linked me to something that I already know. Yeah, loop to the children. It's kind of pointless. It's really slow, and I have to do it every frame in order to make it accurate, so it's really expensive. So we're not going to do that. We only need to know the size of the ship. We don't have to know exactly where the bounds are. We just have to know their scope, and that never changes. Ah, so this is actually pretty decent. This is more like what I had in mind. Now, of course, the issue here is that we are using a sphere, and it could very well be that that sphere is not a great shape for showing the ship and such, because the sphere is inherently round and the ship is inherently squarish. So obviously it's not perfect. Let's go ahead and clamp the velocity at 100, and we'll divide it by 100. And we can clamp this to 0, I guess. I don't know why rigid body velocity to magnitude would ever be less than 0. That seems kind of impossible, but I've already got it programmed, so whatever. I'll deal with it later. Yeah, so you can see how this is supposed to go. When you're moving at a moderate speed, it gives you some indication of what you can expect if you strafe. Whereas if you're moving fast, it should give you some warning. Oh, but it's way too slow. Look at how slow that is. Okay, so there's something screwy going on here. Oh, because I divided by 100 and I meant to divide by 10. That's why. Basically, when you're fast, I want it to be huge so that you can see further into the future. Yeah, like that. Oh no, crash! Obviously, the max speed of this ship is set a little bit high. If I were to reduce this max speed down to something a little bit more manageable, like 50, then that might be something that's a little bit less broken. But on the other hand, I think that max strafe velocity is also too high. We will see. Trying to thread this needle has become a recurring challenge. That camera needs work. Ugh. Yeah, this actually feels pretty good. I like it. I like it. What we're going to do now is we're going to create the ability for this same exact shader to show things depending on your scanning results. So it'll show something if you're scanning it, and it'll show something else if you are done scanning it. And for that, we're going to need to add a couple new values into our shader. So we're going to want to have a scanning, which is going to be a bool. Can we take a bool? I actually don't know. I've never seen a bool in an example, which doesn't imply that you can't. It's just I've never happened to see one of those. Let's take a quick look here. Unity providing vertex data. That's probably not it. I think that's just a random thing here. Let's take a look at some examples just to see whether they got bool in here somewhere. This might take forever if I'm not careful. Great. If any of you happen to know what a bool is, but I think it's probably going to be something easy. So let's try it out. Bool. Boolean. Bool. Oh, lowercase bool? Really? That doesn't seem right. I bet that's wrong. Shaders don't support bools. Okay, so I have to use a proxy. That's kind of obnoxious. Alright, well, I guess we'll just use a range. Whatever. It's dumb, though. I don't like that. And then we're going to want to have a... Morse Amalgam says you have to use a float int and fake it. So that's what I'll do. And the other thing we're going to need is a scan complete. which will also be a range of 0 to 1, I guess. Morse Amalgam says toggle is a value I can use. That would be neat. Let's try it out. I don't see that triggering properly. Well, we'll see if it barfs. If it barfs, then it barfs. Let's add these in down here. So I guess it's a float. Half. It's a half. Okay, half. That's fine. Scanning half. Scan complete. And then we pop on over and take a quick look here. Inconsistencies in the line returns. That's not too bad. Okay, so it does actually say that the toggle didn't cause any bugs. So let's pop on over to something and see whether or not that toggle is actually a toggle, because that's a neat trick. Boop. Ah, look, it's a toggle. Nice. Does a toggle turn it to 1 if it's true? Well, we'll find out. I imagine it does. Well, this should work. I'm just trying to go over it in my head and thinking. So what we want to do here is, right now we have a set of textures where, sorry, not a set of textures, a set of colors. We default to the baseline texture, which we're going to do in a lot of different ways. Later on, we're going to actually add in some texturing that doesn't require UV mapping, but right now it's just a flat color. But what we do is we fetch that flat color, and we do that right here. So what we actually need to do is make this happen depending on what sort of values we've got. So if scanning, come on, is greater than 0, else if scan complete is greater than 0. Actually, these should be in the opposite order. No, they're fine. Well, no, these should be in the opposite order, because you can't scan something that's already been scanned. That's not how you spell else. And then we got else. So with this in mind, what we're going to do is we are going to change these colors to whatever we want for the sake of just showing that they're distinct. Soup of Can is relinking to material property drawer, which is nice. That's been a while since I've had to look at that. So if we are scanning, let's just go ahead and make it bold. Later on we'll want to, well, let's go ahead and make all of these values that we can set. So this would be world highlight color. This would be scanning color. And this would be scanned color. And we do the same thing here. And the reason I'm doing that is because otherwise I'd have to put a new in here, and I'd have to declare a new every single pass, and there's a lot of passes. This is the shader that does project grid onto obstacles. Right now I'm adding in other functionality. So right now what we should have is the ability to... Why are they just all called color? Oh, because I didn't change their names. Highlight color. Scanning color. Scanned color. There we are. So let's go ahead and change these colors to something besides yellow. For this one, we'll go ahead and make it orange. And then for this one, we'll go ahead and make it like a dark blue, like this. Now, I believe that we can copy those. Yeah, so when we go over to the interior, we can just paste them in. Boom. And then that should work, except for right now, we don't actually set those values. So let's go over there and set them manually. Beep. Now it's gold, or amber. And then, beep. Now it's dark blue. So what we really want to do is have that also vary based on the position and normal of the object. There are a lot of ways to do that, but in this case we can just use a flat grid, and it would be substantially easier to calculate than this normalized cross-normalized stuff. The normalized cross-normalized stuff is probably not necessary, but it keeps it from ever flashing or flickering, which is the primary advantage. To be honest, we could continue to use this normalized stuff and figure all of this stuff out. But the problem is, can we put in just arbitrary functions in shaders? I think I don't want to do this twice, and I don't want to do it if I don't have to do it. This is probably fairly expensive. So what I want to do is, for the scanning color, we're going to go ahead and get a value that is based on our position. So float grid. And what we're going to do for this is we're going to just take the highest, hold on, fix 3 delta equals world chord. We're going to frac it. And then we're going to go ahead and say that float percent equals, there was a max, right? Yeah, max, it's max of abs delta dot x, max of abs delta dot y, abs delta dot z. And then we can just do a lerp between these two colors. So this color, and then C equals lerp C, comma, scanning color, comma, percent. And that should give us just an absolutely flat grid. But it barfed. Oh, there's no scanning color. It's all scanning color. And here it's giving us a barf on conversion, but that doesn't care about that when I actually have code that works. Interesting. Anyway, here's the scanning, and it just does not work. You can see that what it does is it gives us a soft amber light, which is interesting. That's not what I expected, and I don't know why that is. I expected it to give me some chop. Because world chord should be its position in the world. And frac should just chop off the integer part and leave me with a value between 0 and 1. Here, frac world chord should leave me with a value of between 0 and 1, but it should cycle. So if we were to change this to times 10, what would happen? Nothing. Divided by 10. Nothing. Okay, so the world chord is, I'm just an idiot. I am an idiot. It's in.world pause. World chord is the place where I'm trying to look with the ball. Obviously, that's not right. So what we've got here is a grid, but you can see that we've got some flicker and flash. This happens on the Z-Fight, but the Z-Fight is in the shader rather than the mesh. If we were to move this even just a tiny, tiny nudge, it would stop Z-Fighting, but then it becomes opaque. So what we're going to want to do here is avoid those kinds of perfect angles. And the reason that those exist is simply because we are fracking something, and I have my defaults always tend to line up on integers. So if we were to change this to something like 10.01, the only place that should now frack is should now glitter like that is at 0, 0, 0. But you can see that we ended up with some solid stuff. Well, what we can do is we can say that if percent is greater than 0.999, then percent equals 0. But then it'll be blank, won't it? Yeah, we don't want that. I don't think I can put Fs in here, can I? Oh, I can. Okay, I misunderstood something earlier then. But it doesn't really matter, because this is not going to work. It ends up giving us flat surfaces, and we want it to forcibly have a grid. It may be that I do want to do this. It's just that this is kind of expensive. Well, let's see how slow this really is. All right, so what we've got here is C equals scanning color. That's not how you spell underscore. There we are. And I could actually do it with a mission, but I don't want it to be a mission. I want it to be albedo. So what we're doing here is we're taking the distance from the world chord again, and this is not going to be of any use to us. So we're going to get rid of that. The delta is the difference between the world chord and the world position. That's just going to be the world position, and then we're going to normalize it. Why would we normalize it? Oh yeah. We're normalizing it so that we can get the range along the axes. That's fine. Sufcan says I can make the cross product stuff into a function. Don't have to repeat it. Yeah, it's something I just kind of threw together, so it's been a little bit like I'm just kind of hacking this stuff to work. But you're right there. If we put in a fixed 3. Norm cross, then what we can do is we can take in a fixed, we can take in an in. Can we just take the whole in? We only need the vert normal, so fixed 3 vert normal. And then we can just copy this. But the problem is, of course, this is actually 2 normals, isn't it? And it doesn't return jack. And so we should be able to just declare left hand and right hand, and then use the norm cross. If you can spell it right. Yeah. In.vertNormal, right hand, left hand. And we can do the same thing down here. Right hand, left hand. Oh, I have to put an out here, don't I? The problem is I'm repeating it in certain situations, but the times when that's repeated is pretty low, so I'm not gonna polish it right now, but we'll make a note of it. In theory, it might be worth saving the values from above so we don't repeat them. In practice, it's probably not gonna come up much. So here what we're doing is we are finding the values, and then we get this percent. If r is greater than percent, we're going to go ahead and make that a flat 0.95. And that should work. No, I broke it. So it said it expected something. Do I not understand how to make functions? Unexpected token out. Does it just do out automatically? Do I not have to type it out? That doesn't seem right. That seems wrong. I'm not familiar with this. I'm not familiar with this language. It's not C#. It's something else. But if I don't have to put out there, then that means that they're passing those as pointers, which seems like it's just gonna be something I'm gonna have to really be careful about. Oh, there's no in. There we go. Ah, perfect. That's what I wanted to see. So that is what we get when we tell it that that is being scanned. What we can do is we can do all sorts of fancy stuff where we pulse it or whatever we would like. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use the scanning value, which is set to be either 0 or 1 according to the toggle, but we can set it manually to any value. We're going to use that range to our advantage so that when we are scanning, we'll just continually move that number up and down, ping pong style, or maybe just frac style. Either way, what we're going to need to do is change this to be a different value. So we're going to use L because we already have it. We're going to say L equals scanning divided by 10, divided by 3. Plus 0.66f. And we'll just say if scanning is greater than L. Plus 0.6. Oh, how's that? Yeah. Oh no, I broke it. Unexpected token F. Okay, so I really don't understand when I'm allowed to put in Fs and when I'm not, but whatever. So what we've got here is a scan. Take that toggle out of the scan. So that we can use the full range here. So that'll work fine. And what we'll do is we'll just have that go over and over and over as we actually scan something. But in order to do that, we're going to need the material property drawer to get assigned and updated. Right now we do not have a material property drawer that gets assigned and updated, so we're going to want to create that. Only thing I can't remember is whether a material property drawer is a struct or a class. If it's a class, I can just create one and then update it remotely every single time. If it's a struct, I'm going to have to create one for every class, every frame. For every material, rather, every frame. Let's just take a look at the documentation. Material property drawer. A base class, okay. This is what I want, right? It's called a material property drawer. It's not like... I think this is it, yeah. Is it? Am I looking for something? What is the name of the thing that I can put on top of a material that will make... Oh, let's take a look. Material M. M dot... Set override tag? Sets an override tag value on the material. I don't know what that means. I'm going to look that up. Set override tag. What's that? Set an override tag value on the target. We'll set a tag value that overrides the value of said tag. Thank you. What's a tag? This can be used to make sure that replacement shaders work. So that like sets render type tags, but I don't think it can change values. Material property block. That's what I want. Material property block. Much better. Okay. The material property block is a class or a struct. It doesn't tell me. Well, it's got public functions. In the old days, that would mean it was a class. Let's go ahead and assume it's a class. So, material property block. Block. Scanning block. Scanning material property. Nice short names. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to set a float, and the float we're going to be setting is the scanning float. And we're going to set it to an arbitrary value that we are going to keep track of. So float scanning frac value. Except for it's not called scanning, it is called scanning. What is it called? Scanning. Okay, good, I was right. And then what we'll do is we will just say scanning frac value plus equals time.delta time. If scanning frac value is greater than 1, scanning frac value equals 0.01f. Something like that works fine. It doesn't have to be exact, as long as it never reaches absolute 0. Now, right now, we're not assigning this property block to anyone. So what we need to do is we need to take that last scan, and we need to keep it in mind. So when we're changing the last scan target, we need to unapply our property block from the old materials and apply it to the new ones. So public void change scan target, and then it would be the transform old target transform new target. So what we need to do is if old target, then we go through all of the mesh renderers on the old target equals get equals old target dot get component in children mesh renderer. We can also do it with skinned mesh renderers, but we won't worry about that at the moment. Let's say for each MRS as mesh. Oh, is it mesh renderer MR in MRS? And what we could do is take a look at where we apply these. I actually don't know So here is the get per render material property block. So presumably we want to do a set instead. Set property block. Null. And then here we want to do the same thing for new target, but in the opposite direction. There we are. That should do. And hopefully this will work. I am not sure at all whether it will, but it's a lot faster and more useful than constantly changing whether something has been, creating new materials all the time is really expensive. The only problem with this is it will overwrite our scanned value. So what we need to do is we need to know whether or not the I didn't put this up here. Hold on. Material M. I think that's just a free-floating material M I was using for testing purposes. So we'll put that here, and then we will. No, wait. That's not where we want it. I was right the first time. Sorry. Dang it. There we are. But if we don't have a material property block, I guess it's public, so we'll have one. This should work. But as I was trying to say, if the target is in our scanned objects, then we're going to need to set the additional value of the fact that it was scanned. So for that, what we need to do is use our science. And it has a has been scanned. So we can say if, or we can say scanning material property block dot set property block set float, and then we will say if our new target has been scanned, then we'll set it to 1, otherwise we'll set it to 0. But we have to tell it what float. It's a scanned, right? Is that the right value? Scanned? Scan complete. Let's go ahead and call this scanned. There's no rename, so we'll have to do it manually. That's fine. It's only 2 places I use it, so it's not a big deal. And let's see what sort of errors we get. It didn't like that, but I changed it, didn't I? Oh, that's... Here. 3 places. I forgot that this is double declared. I will remember shaders at some point. There we are. So now what we've got is something where we will use the correct property material block regardless. Now what we have is one more constraint. When we are scanning something that this null here might not be a null, and the reason for that is because if it's already been scanned, we need to override the scanned value. So bool scanned equals science.hasBeenScanned new target, or old target rather. And then here, this goes into the new target area. And then this old target, if we've scanned it, then we need to create a material block. So material, what's it called? Property material property block, scanned prop equals new material property block. And then we can say scanned prop dot set float scanned to 1. And then down here we say if scanned, else there we are. And that should do for our making sure that things that we have finished scanning get their property properly set. The only thing left at the moment is that we don't currently set that property block when we finish scanning something. But we can by simply changing the target more carefully. Right now we have no change target calls, so this wouldn't do anything. It's time to put those in. So right now here we set this last scan.target, as you can see. So we're going to go ahead and say change scan target, last scan.target, target. There we go. And then we have a couple of other things where we need to change it. Here, for example, where it says st.scanned, this is where we actually do our scanning. So what we need to do is change it to itself so that we don't have any problems. Actually, we can just go ahead and put a null here. Set the property drawer, material property block. There we are. That should do. Let's take a look. Let's see if it works. We are in uncharted territory here, everybody. All right, so let's go ahead and get ourselves close enough to scan something. Oh, it barfed. Scanning material, set property, set float. Hold on. Object reference not set to an instance. So there's no property block in our scanner, so it didn't get created automatically. We need to create one. That's not a big deal. Public void awake. Scanning material property block equals new scanning material property block. I guess because it can't be drawn over here, so it didn't get created automatically. That's fine, as long as this works. Ah, perfect. Look at that. We're scanning it. Everybody, it's working. Hurrah! I don't know how fast it is. I get the feeling that this is going to be pretty slow. It's only one mesh at a time, though. I just don't know how fast it's going to be. It might be pretty bad. Done scanning. And when it's done scanning, it should now be the dark blue color. See? So that is how it will work. Now if I look over here, it's actually not any faster or slower. It's just a steady 60. So whether or not we are scanning something or not doesn't seem to have any effect on the render speed, meaning that those cross multiplies are apparently quite fast. Yeah, I can't even distinguish between the speeds. That's really nice. Boom. Yoink. Get up. Get up off of that thing. All right. So that's not bad at all. I like that. We've got I don't see anything going off the rails, so I think this might work. I don't see anything like you know, garbage collector madness or anything. And we're doing a steady 60 because that's what I'm aiming for. Boom. Okay, so there is stuff happening here. The exact thing that goes on is this. You can see how we get a lot of extra set pass calls and a small jump in the number of batches and triangles. I think that that's because those have to be treated differently, but I'm not sure. I think the set property drawer or the set material property block, it doesn't count as a new material, but it still has to be rendered in the pipeline as a new material, if you see what I mean. So that's why we went from down here to up here. However, that's a jump of twice as many. That's pretty bad. I don't like that. I guess it's probably not so bad. It makes me uncomfortable. Well, we'll see. If I need to polish it up later, I will. I don't know enough about the shader pipeline to actually know how much optimization I'm going to need here. But overall, I'm going to take a picture and post some pictures to Twitter, because that's always fun. So I added this thing is being scanned effect using material property blocks. Seems fast. Okay, so when I lost the scanning target, it remains selected, as you can see. So it looks like when I go to null, it doesn't correctly deallocate, which is not a big deal. We just take this and reverse it. Here it is. Why am I not moving? That was weird. Boom. Fun stuff. All right, so just so everybody's aware, it turns out that is in fact a class, and delightfully, I can apparently update that class, but it doesn't actually update. You can see that the thing that's missing from this is it's not pulsing. This should be going wub, 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 but it's not. And the reason for that is because it's not the same class once I've assigned it. So I need to assign it every frame if I wanted to do this. So we're going to go ahead and try it, see whether or not that slows stuff down. Set property, or set material props, update material prop. Protected, mesh renderer, cached renderers. Update material props. And then down here, if we are going to make it so that it does have the same target, then we're just going to want to update. Now that should make it pulse. The question is, how slow is that going to be? Let's go ahead and open up our, because I don't know whether applying a material property block causes it to reallocate a material. I don't know how this works in that much detail, but we'll take a look. We'll check it out and try it on for size. Because another option I have is I could actually update the base materials value there and just change how it's being drawn. Because then I would just update the material value and not reapply a property block. Okay, so it's pulsing correctly. And that's interesting. I didn't see much of a jump. Last time it jumped from 128 set pascals to 200 and something. This time it jumped from 154 to 171, which is negligible. So that's interesting. And it doesn't appear to be climbing or oscillating or anything. We are having some set pascals slowly wobbling up and down. That's kind of interesting. I don't know what's going on with that. I can't tell these colors apart. Is that batches? Is it adjusting these batches? Well, the batch adjustment is because of where my grid is being drawn. So there is definitely some oscillation, but there's no... Oh, there's the spike, but then it's a spike back down. That's interesting. I just don't know anything about what this actually means. But it must just be because I'm turning and things are coming onto the screen. But I am dropping below 60. For small spikes, I'm dropping down to like 40 frames per second. Which I'm not too worried about it. I don't need the 60, but I know that a lot of people don't have a beefy computer, and I'd like to make this runnable on a beefy computer. We'll see. I might have to tweak this, try it a different way, something like that. In the end, however, am I still going? Because my video feed seems to have stopped in my preview. That's interesting. In the end, this is fast enough for now. For a first attempt, I think this is fine. I'm just trying to keep my eye on potential dangers down the road. And changing this camera is now a necessity. The camera is no longer anywhere near being decent. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and comment out this entire area. And that should just lock the camera into wherever it is. And then I can assign in some other things later. But basically, the camera wibble wobbling was intended to give you a view of how far it was between you and whatever surface you might be engaging with. However, we have this glowing grid thing now instead, and that should tell us a lot more. So I don't like the way that pulses. I think that we want to change the exact nature there. Don't know if this would be helpful. One thread I stumbled across suggested setting them as shared material instead of the material. Well, that's the whole point. I'm not setting the material at any point here. I'm using a material property block, which is put on the mesh renderer and isn't part of the material. And basically, it keeps it from instantiating a new material, and it applies automatically to all properties inside of that mesh renderer. All materials inside that mesh renderer. So it should be nice and fast. It's not instantiating any new materials, but when the rendering pipeline actually asks for what's going on, it is instantiating new batch calls and new passes. So it's not like completely free. It's still a little bit expensive, but I don't know how little bit that is. It could be trivial, or it could be just a total train wreck. I don't know. We will find out as we push forward. So what I'm going to do for the scanning is I'm going to use the square of our scanning value, and I'm also going to do it as a color lerp. So L equals scanning times scanning divided by 3. And I'm also going to say that this is supposed to be a lerp scanning color, well, we can do it. L. Wait, it's not even L, it's just scanning. Here we are. Let's see whether or not this produces a more pleasing set of pulses, because that linear pulse was like eye-blowing. I didn't like it at all. It's the right idea, wrong implementation. I may also change it to a 2-second pulse. So right now the color lerp is backwards. That's no big deal. We'll just reverse it. And the other thing we need to do is change it to a 2-second pulse instead of a 1-second pulse. So we'll just divide our scanner's update here. Here it is. 2-second pulse. Oh! Oh, because it's not underscore C. Got too used to putting underscores in front of things. All right, here we go. One more time. That's more like what I had in mind. Yay, I scanned it. Scan complete. Oh, brakes. Zoop. Zoop. So one more thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set that scanning value every single time we move to a new object. Because it's going to be important for us to not come in halfway through that pulse because it looks bad. So our frac, which is here in the scanner, our frac value here is going to be set to like 0.1 every single time we change our scan target. And we'll go ahead and reassign that every single time as well. I think 0.01 is about right. But basically, we just wanted to never pop in halfway through a pulse, because that looks weird. Yeah. A nice gentle pulse. Good, good, good. Oh no, there's a large random particle thing in the way. Don't worry, those are strictly debug particles. They're not actually in existence or anything. Clunk. Getting our scan on. Oh no, I lost our scan target. Turn around. Yoop. Good, I scanned it. Ah. So I know that I spend a lot of my time like just randomly driving this thing around, but what I'm doing is I'm testing how the game feels. I'm trying to get a feel for how it should look and feel to pilot it around. Soon I'll be adding in sound effects and collision damage and stuff like that, but I need to make sure that it's fun before I waste any of my time doing that shit. There, scanned it. It has to feel good. So basically the game will be you drive around and you scan stuff and you collect stuff, and you'll have science resources and physical resources, and you'll be able to tweak your ship and put on new components based on you know, how many materials you have and what sort of science you know. You know, I could do something more interesting with this scan, because right now what happens is I do this regardless, and what we could do is only do this if it's inside of a scanned value. So here, what we can do is put this in and also figure out. We keep track of the distance. It's hit.distance. There it is. So here, we can put it in here, and we can actually multiply this by hit.distance, or divide it by hit.distance. So we'll give it a shot here. So something like this. And that should make it so that the closer we are, the faster it pulses. Morse Amalgam says, would it be possible to make the grid be an indicator of scanned progress? That's sort of what I'm starting to do now. I'm headed towards the same direction, Morse. I'm just trying to figure out a good way to do it. Well, the idea is good. So if we were going to do this, we would need to have two things that indicate scan progress. One is how fast the scan is progressing, and the other is how close it is to being completed. We don't have a value for how close it is to being completed, but we can use the scanned, we can use that scanned float and simply set it to a negative value. But we definitely need to make this a little bit better. So it's like hit.distance plus 5 divided by 5. That way we don't get that super fast pulse. But we also want to set our scanned value equal to the negative of our scan.value. There we are. So here we're just going to say if last scan.aggregate is less than 10, then set it. There we are. That way we'll have a big negative value on our scanned when we are scanning, and we can use that to determine what we would like to draw. Now, what sort of visual we want with that is a good question. So right now, the size of those lines is the how fast your scanning causes those to flicker faster and faster and faster. We can also play with the density of the lines, and so that would mean that we could take our frac on our normalized in-world position, this frac here where we divide by 5, we can divide by the negative scanning value. So float scan value equals negative scanned equals 1 minus scanned. And then it's going to be between 0 and 10. So that'll give us, make this 5 minus scanned, and then we can divide by scan value. Well, division is expensive, so we should probably multiply by scan value instead. Let's see if this works. We could also do things like change the color and stuff like that. I imagine that we will revisit these scanners many times. Okay, so we're going the wrong direction. They're getting bigger rather than smaller. So to fix that, we're going to go ahead and change which side this scanned is on. So it's going to be negative scanned. So it's 5 minus scanned divided by 10. I don't know. There, something like that. Let's try it out. It's also possible for us to use the scanner in a similar way to, well, we can use the scanner in a similar way to this circular thing and deploy a much, much larger ball. But then the material property block would have to override a different value to do that. And I don't have that value yet. So let's divide this by 50. I think I went the wrong direction, didn't I? Divided by 5. It doesn't look any different. It seems like it's the exact same size. Oh, because it's scanned divided by 5. I idiot. That's better. Okay, so what we do know is that scanned varies. Scanned goes from 0 to -10, with -10 being fully scanned. That should also be a very dense grid. So when we're at 15, we want this to be super, super dense. So what happens if we make this divided by 10? Because it would be 20 divided by 10. It would be multiplying by 2. Is that dense enough? It might not be. All right, so we're going to want to make this 1 minus scanned divided by 10. I'm trying to make it so that the scanning value becomes really, really obvious when you're approaching the end. Maybe I should square it again. I don't think this is the right approach. Okay, so that's not what we're going to do. Instead, we're going to go ahead and change this value, which is currently scanning times scanning. We're going to go ahead and make this value become closer and closer to 1, so that it becomes a solid bar as you become almost scanned. But it's still supposed to pulse. So in order to pulse, we're going to leave a little bit of leeway on the scanning. So this will end up being between 0 and 1. So this is 0 to 1. L plus equals scanned, or L minus equals scanned divided by 10. and that's now 0 to 2. So then we say L equals L divided by 3 plus 0.6 divided by 6 plus 0.6. Is that right? No, it's wrong. It's backwards, because what we actually want to have happen is we want this to get lower. So what we're going to do is we're going to say that L equals 1 minus L divided by 2. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and adjust this a little bit. Basically, this value here will max out at 1. So we'll be adding up to 1 here. And when it's at 1, we want it to always be solid. So let's go ahead and see whether or not this seems right. I think I forgot to not subtract. Okay, so that's not even close to right. That's what I wanted to do. Basically, I want the pulsing to be a very secondary concern, just like a visual pulse to indicate that you're awake. Okay, well, if that's the case, let's go ahead and divide this by a lot. That's more like it. But now the pulsing no longer makes sense. This color pulsing no longer makes sense. So what we're going to do is this color pulsing, we're going to go ahead and lerp it more aggressively. So something like 0.8 plus scanning divided by 5. Because that didn't work. Just kind of sitting here adjusting things until it feels right to me, but this is still just a first pass, so. You know, I don't even think we need that. Yeah, I don't even think we need that. So let's go ahead and remove this. L equals negative scan divided by 10. So if we do this, we can say L equals 1 plus scan divided by 10, and that'll be a 0 at fully scanned. And then we'll have a little bit of color pulsing, but no grid pulsing. I think I'm going to make that color pulsing a little bit better too. Perfect. All right, so with that in mind, we can do some fixing for this color pulse, because right now it is here, it is a little bit rough. So L equals scanning minus 0.5F. And then we're going to absolute value that. So what that gets us is a value between 0.5 and 0.5, but it should wrap. Because when it's at 1, it'll be 0.5, and when it's at 0, it'll be 0.5. See? So here we can just say L. So we can say 0.75 f L divided by 5. 0.5 to yeah, that's correct. But this is not what we need. There, got to spell things right. If you spell things right, you'll have much better luck when you're programming. When you don't spell things right, you'll have very bad luck. All right, so when we get ourselves a little bit of a lock on, the color pulsing is very, very gentle. Let's go ahead and double it in terms of its severity. Yeah. I can see why it was very gentle. I did my math wrong. Doing math correctly also helps, but not as much as spelling things correctly. Perfect. I love it. We're doing great. We're doing great, guys. This is actually getting kind of juicy. I'm feeling like I'm actually accomplishing stuff. There's still a lot left to do, even in just this piloting around part, but I'm starting to feel like it's not... Oh, crap! I just died. So the other thing we've got to do is we've got to change this interior texture, this interior material. Right now it's very dark, but we're now forbidden from using dark textures because we have a dark means that it's been scanned. So we can only use like a tan mid texture. Oh no, there's a giant thing inside. Ah! I threaded the needle for once. Woohoo! Let's do a little bit more scanning. Break! Get a nice close pass here. Try not to ram anything too badly. Got it. And then we'll just go down. Yeah. Shaders are cool. So this is what I wanted to accomplish today. I've fixed the camera so that, I've literally fixed it. It's now not moving. I'm probably going to want to allow the player to control the camera a lot more in detail. But I haven't thought of a good way to do that. Obviously, I could just let you hold Alt or something, or right mouse, but there are some problems with doing that. Because it's something you can't do quite so easily on the fly, but it might be okay. I'll have to play around with cameras a lot. I still have to do impact damage, sound effects, lots of stuff like that. But most of that stuff is pretty close to being ready, believe it or not. The foundation has long been laid. It's just a matter of turning it all on and hooking it up. So that's why I haven't bothered to do it too much. I wanted to be able to actually pilot things before I got locked into this situation where I was taking damage. There are a lot of, if I was going to be exploding every single time I ran into something before I had the ability to pilot at all, there would be a lot of restarts and it would be super slow. So here you can see something we've already scanned shows no difference. So that's fine. There's only one thing left to scan. Dun, dun, dun. Turn on the brakes early. Otherwise, you will end up ramming it. A nice close graze will get us the best scan speed. Boom. Everything's scanned. And that means that we've also got a fair amount of science, because those things also have materials science in them. And all we need to really do in order to get the baseline working is we need to create the ability to actually collect stuff. Because what will happen is you have an unlimited supply of like just junk materials like iron and crap like that, but you're going to want to collect the expensive detailed stuff like circuitry, you know, optical crystals and stuff like that. And that means that you won't be trying to stick a whole bunch of junk onto the back of your ship and fly around. It's not spaceship Katamari. But you are going to want to collect things like circuitry, and those will get put into your cargo bay. By the way, there are some Spaceship Katamari games, so I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just not what my goal is today. Ooh, that was close. Shoof. Ah, clunk. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start to think about finishing up here. It's been an hour and a half, and I did what I wanted to do. I'm shocked it was that easy. I thought it was going to take like 3 hours. I was getting myself ready. But to be honest, I want to go and lie down for a bit because I am still feeling that heat exhaustion. Was it heat fatigue or something? The less severe one. So, you got any questions? This is the time to ask. And I'll pay attention to chat for a little while longer. And I hope to see you again next week, Wednesdays and Sundays. We will be working on probably modeling crap tons of debris. If any of you have fun times modeling debris, you're welcome to come model space debris with me. We will be modeling debris with a focus on things that are fun to fly through and things that have like panels and crap that you need to be able to get close and open up to pull out circuitry. So those things in mind, I will think about what I want to do, and all of you folks can think about what you want to do, and we'll meet up again on Wednesday. Thanks for stopping by. Now where is the stop button?